WXRK, New York, 92.3 K-Rock. I'm Vin Scelsa. It's Delight, the name of the show. We get together on Sunday mornings between 9 and noon. Come with me, if you will, back to East Orange. Yes, we're going back to East Orange, New Jersey, friends. Community in which some significant things in my life took place. You know how there are certain records that you identify and associate with specific memories of something or other, a person, a smell, a day, a holiday, a sight, whatever, you know, an emotion, a feel. The Beatles' White Album for 18 years now has been very closely identified in my heart and soul with Christmas, with the holidays, with December, with the holiday season. Whenever I hear it, it could be like the hottest day in August. It could be a sultry, hot, miserable, sweltering day in August, and you're sitting on the beach, and somebody 3 blankets down has the radio cranked up, and some song from the Beatles' White Album comes on the radio. I am immediately brought back to December 1968, East Orange, New Jersey. It's a couple of years later now after that other story, and those guys we're gone. The three of us are no longer together. We are no longer happening. Now I'm into radio, and I'm working at the college radio station, WFMU. It's 1968. It has been a horrible year. I mean, it's been a very exciting... See, when people wonder about the 60s, and they you either lived through it or you didn't, right? And those of us who lived through it, I think we wonder, what happened? What was that all about? You know, just as much as the people who didn't live through it wonder, well, what was the big deal? The big deal had something to do with liberation. Because I just realized that the other story I told about the Christmas tree was a story of liberation on a number of levels. And this story is a story of liberation as well. I'm working at the college radio station. We had turned it from a normal, staid, conservative type college radio station into something that we called free-form radio. I had dropped out of school, so had most of the other people who were working on the staff, and a whole bunch of people who had nothing to do with the college whatsoever, people who weren't students, flocked to this radio station, and it became this kind of focal point for a community that was not yet really totally and officially defined. It's still 8 months before Woodstock. You know, it's December of 1968, but what a hell of a year it's been. Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, the Democratic Convention in Chicago, the election in November, riots on all sorts of college campuses, riots in all sorts of cities, in all sorts of... I mean, it's been a devastating, albeit very exciting, thrilling year. But we all need something at the end of this year. We all need something. Well, the word was out that there was a Beatles album coming out. Nobody knew very much about it. And there were rumors that the Beatles were like, you know, having their problems, man. The Beatles were out of sorts with one another. And it was just a lot of rumors floating around in the community, you know, about the Beatles. See, the Beatles... See, like, there were certain people back then who were like, they were gods. And I don't mean that in, like, just some sort of flamboyant, frivolous way. They were gods in that we waited for messages from them, you know? Dylan, the Beatles. That's about it. Well, no, there was some more. There was Townsend and the Who. And a bunch of others. We waited to find out what had happened to us and where we were going next, because these people were the chroniclers of our lives. And it was a significant event when one of them released an album. It was like sort of like the hysteria, not in commercial terms, but sort of like the emotional hysteria that surrounded the whole release of the Springsteen album just now, you know, the live Springsteen thing. In that a large community of people were anxiously awaiting the arrival of a significant statement from somebody they admired and loved and related to and identified with. So the rumor that there was a Beatles album coming out and that it might be out for Christmas got everybody just so titillated and so high, you know? Wow, a Beatles album for Christmas, man. Wouldn't that be great to have a Christmas album after this year, this incredible, heart-shattering year that we've had, this incredible future that we face that Lord knows what it's the height of the Vietnam War. It's all this stuff, what the Beatles could give us a Christmas album. Okay, so I'm working at the radio station at WFMU. As a matter of fact, I'm the program director of the radio station. I was a very benevolent program director. It was my way of talking myself into $45 a week because I wasn't working anything else. I needed some money, and there were only 3 paid positions on the staff. It was the general manager, the production director, and the program director. So I became the program director. My philosophy as program director was pick a whole bunch of good, talented people to do shows, give them shows, and then let them go and do it. I acted on faith and trust. People did what it was called free-form radio. People did what they were inspired to do or not inspired to do at any particular point along the way. Well, we had this guy who did the morning show whose name was, I kid you not, as Jack Parr used to say, Roger Dangerfield was the man's real name. I mean, it was on his FCC license. It was on his third-class license. Roger Dangerfield. Guy had to put up with a lot of Rodney Dangerfield jokes, and I'm sure he still does to this day if he's still amongst us. I have no idea where Roger Dangerfield is anymore, but Roger Dangerfield was the ultimate Beatles freak. This was the guy who invented listening to Beatles records backwards for hidden messages. The rest of us were content with taking our messages from the surface. The rest of us were content with all you need is love. All you need is love. But no, Roger had to spin it around backwards to find boys dead, boys dead, boys dead. He was the guy who invented all. He lived his life 24 hours a day, breathed it, ate it, thought it, felt it. The Beatles. He and his wife, man, they were just incredible. Obsessed. I mean, talk about obsession. Well, Roger did the morning show 5 days a week. Between 6 and 9 in the morning, all we heard on WFMU was Beatles. Frontwards, backwards, sidewards, old records, new records, constant. I mean, it was the only time as program director of this radio station that I ever felt compelled to do something remotely resembling what a program director does. I called Roger in one day after his show. And we sat down and I said, Roger, you've been doing this show now for like 7-8 months. You've been doing the morning show, and I've never heard anything but the Beatles on the show, Roger. Oh, yeah, isn't it great? I get to play Beatles for 3 hours every day. Isn't that fantastic? I said, but Roger, the show is not the Beatles show. I mean, the whole thing about this, our philosophy here at this radio station, what we're trying to do is incorporate lots of different kinds of music and different styles and politics and you gotta broaden your horizons a little bit. You gotta. Oh, are you trying to tell me I can't play Beatles? I said no. No, I'm cool. I'm hip. It's 1968. I'm not gonna step on your toes, man. I'm not gonna try and curtail your freedom. No, I'm just suggesting that maybe you ought to think about it. So Roger, of course, continued to play Beatles for 3 hours. So it's December. Early December. The rumors are flying about this Beatles album that is about to be released in time for Christmas, and we all need it desperately. One day, Roger is in, now this, I forget the exact detail here, he is either in a Corvette or a Two Guys, somewhere in Essex County. He's gone in to buy some motor oil for his car. And he's wandering through the store, eventually heading towards the record department, because the guy is a record freak. I mean, Beatles freak, but record. I mean, if he's near any place where there's going to be records, he's going to go there. You know the kind of person. You're probably that kind of person yourself. You always wander over to the record section. So Roger's got his motor oil in one hand, and he starts to wander over to the record section, and he gets to the record section, and he sees these cases packed up in the aisle, these boxes packed up, stacked up 5 and 6 and 7 of these boxes high, and they all have the Capitol Records logo on them. And Roger goes, what is this? Look at all this stuff from Capitol Records. What is it? Apple Records, of course, is the Beatles label distributed at that time through Capitol Records. Again, Roger goes, what is this? What have I? And one of the boxes is open. They're all sealed and taped and stapled, but one of the boxes is open. So Roger looks around. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. He did his Beatles show that morning and then got in the car and drove to either was a two guys or a Corvette, I don't remember which, to get his motor oil. And there's like hardly anybody around. The store is not happening yet. It's still sort of not the Christmas rush yet. It's early December. Roger looks around. There's nobody around. There's nobody watching. So he goes over to this box and he looks inside and he sees this. All he sees is this blur of whiteness. It's record albums in shrink packs. So he looks around again, makes sure nobody's watching, and he sticks his hand in, and he grabs one of them, and he lifts it up out of the box, and all he's seeing is white. There's nothing else there. It's white. This appears to be a double record set, and it's all just white. Until he gets to that point. I'm trying to look at exactly where it is. It's about, a little less than 3/4 of the way down if you're starting at the top, where they have embossed the words, The Beatles, on this otherwise totally white album jacket. Roger Dangerfield, the world's ultimate Beatles freak, has lucked into an entire truckload of this rumored about album, this album that is about to be released. Roger's got it in his hands. Can you? So he goes over and he looks in the bins, and he sees that the album is not in the bins yet. We don't know when this album is going to be released, but it's sitting there in the aisle in these boxes. There must be about 24 in a box. Roger looks around once again. It's 1968. It's been the year of Martin Luther King, the year of Robert Kennedy, the year of the Democratic Convention in Chicago, the year that Richard Nixon is elected to the presidency of the United States of America, the year of the riots on college campuses, the year of riots in the ghettos in all the major cities. And it's 1968, man. It's the height of the Vietnam War. It is up the revolution. It is up against the wall. Mother, you know what. It is clenched fist raised high. It is the spirit of liberation. Roger looks around one more time. Dare he do it? He puts down the motor oil and he reaches out and he grabs 2 of these boxes, man. So he must have, I guess, about 48 double Beatle albums. And he just up and walks out the store with them. We're getting back to belief. That's how we started the show this morning with Dorothy and belief. Roger believed he could just pick up those boxes and walk out of the store with them. And he did. And he got away with it. Puts him in the car, quick, whips his vehicle on back to the radio station, on back to WFMU, and I happened to be there just at the moment when he arrived, and his face is flushed, and he's out of breath, and he's sweating, and he goes, look what I got, look what I got. What is that, Roger? It's got no cover. What is it? What is it, some kind of bootleg or something? It's not a bootleg. It's coming from a box, Capitol Records. Look, it says the Beatles. It's it. It's the Beatles. It's the Beatles. It's the White Album. It's the Beatles' White Album. Roger Dangerfield was the first person I ever heard refer to it as what it has since become known as, the Beatles' White Album. We immediately went into whoever was on the air at that point and said, here it is, we didn't care whether it was released or not. We didn't care whether Roger liberated it or not. It didn't matter. We had the new album from the Beatles, and we ripped off whatever was on the turntable. We put it on, and we were in heaven. Not only that, but we had 48 copies of it.